Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome once again into the I Am the Possible universe, the place where possibilities become perspective. I am Travell C.W. Lynch, Mr. What, and I am here to help you to regulate your soul and elevate your success. Today, we're going to be talking about the freedom to think. The freedom to think, specifically the freedom to think for yourself. Now, before I get into this, I just wanted to, pause for the cause, as I always like to do. Thank you. Thank you so much for, number one, being my cause. Secondly, thank you so much for sharing in this moment, in this space, in this place, for giving me your attention. I seek to serve, and I want to express my gratitude, my thanksgiving for you, for who you are, for what you are, and for what you do. I just thank God for you. And if you're giving me the next few minutes of your day, of your life, then I want to honor that. And I want to start off by letting you know how much I honor that and how much I truly appreciate that. So thank you so much. If this is your first time ever watching or listening, then I want to encourage you to subscribe. If you're watching me on YouTube, then, please, hit that subscription button, hit that little bell so that you are notified each and every time I drop new content each week. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, then I want to encourage you to also follow and to subscribe to the podcast so that you might receive a continuous flow of encouragement, a continuous flow of inspiration and information that's going to help you to regulate at the soul and to elevate at your level of success, your kind of success, the kind of success that God's created you to be and to experience. So let's get into this. I want to share a quick, I think it's like a paragraph, not even a whole lot. It's like, it's just one. Well, let's just say two paragraphs from a book that I'm reading. Actually, I'm reading it for the second time. I've already read it cover to cover, end to end. It's not a very thick book, right? If you're watching on YouTube, it's just a very thin book. It's a quick read in terms of pages, not a quick read in terms of content. It is very dense. It is very, you read one page and you can sit on that one page for a week or 2 weeks, right? So, it's like that, right? But it is a book for those who desire a more contemplative way of living, a way of praying, and a way of relating to God. It has some gems, some jewels, some nuggets, man, of pure gold that can help you to better regulate, right? Because that's our foundation. Right? We can't elevate unless we first learn to regulate, to get ourselves to a place where our foundation is firm and secure, right? I always draw the analogy of if you were an architect or a building contractor, right? And you want to go out and build a skyscraper, right? Because all of us, when it comes to success, we want to experience as much success as possible. We want to grow as much as we can. We want to expand. We want to evolve. We want to level up. We want to do success on the, grandest stage, on the highest level, right? At the highest level. So in order for us to build that skyscraper of success, we have to first lay a foundation, which is firm, right? And so this is going to help us. What I'm going to share today about learning to think and learning to think for yourself, free thought, free thinking, right? The ability to not be enslaved to someone else's thoughts and someone else's ideas and someone else's ways of doing things. Being able to really acknowledge what God put in you, what God's called you to, created you for, so that you might be extremely regulated at a soul level, that your soul is being fed and led by something that is giving you life. It's not draining you. It's not tormenting you. It's not confusing you, but it's affirming you, right? And it's building and it's protecting the soul space that is necessary, which is the foundation of our lives and which we build from. Okay, so today I am going to use this book's passage or this book's paragraph as a launching pad to share what I want to share. Okay, and it's just a really quick strategy, right? I'm all about sharing strategies, simple strategies that help us again to regulate at a soul level and to elevate at a success level. Okay, so this paragraph is it starts off with the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ. It says, in contemplative practice, you refuse to identify with any one side while still maintaining your intelligence. I'm going to say that one more time. In a contemplative practice, which is just contemplative, let's just summarize it. It's well thought, long pondering, meditative, contemplative. You're giving and you're considering something from a still, quiet space, right? Many times you're in solitude. Many times you're just pulling away, right? And I'm gonna get to some of that in just a moment. But a contemplative practice, or in contemplative practice, right? You refuse to identify with any one side while still maintaining your intelligence. That means you don't have to pick a side in order to be considered intelligent. You retain your wit, your brilliance, your intelligence. You maintain that. Now, it says you hold the creative tension in every seeming, it appears that way, every seeming conflict, and go beyond words to pure, open-ended experience, which has the potential to unify many seeming contradictions. Notice how wordy political and academic discord is, and how quiet monks and hermits are. The next couple of paragraphs start to go into more of how we relate to God, but I wanted to utilize just that first paragraph because it illustrates something very, very specific. In contemplative practice, you refuse to identify with any one side while still maintaining your intelligence or thinking, your ability to think, to process, to reason, to strategize, to calculate, to come up with an answer, to come up with a decision. We live in a very dualistic culture. Pick a side. From birth, pick a side. It's not a bad thing. These examples that I'm about to give you, inherently, they are not bad. I'm just using them as an example to show you how dualism or dualistic thinking, which is summarized by the practice, the perspective, the principle even, that as humans, we must choose a side. And what tends to happen is it's an opposing side. See, the minute you choose one side, you're opposing the other. If you're not with me, then you're against me. When the truth is, I can easily not be with you and not be against you. There is this thing called neutral. There is this thing called I don't care about that given thing. So I'm not going to pick either side. But our culture doesn't allow us, or at least it attempts to not allow us to live in this neutral zone, to exist in this contemplative state, to exist in this non-dualistic reality, because everything in our society, I'm just going to share a few examples that just kind of come to mind of how we are always being told to choose. Let's say, for example, something as simple as iPhone versus Android, right? Have you ever been in a room where someone is all about the iPhone, all about the Mac computer, right? All about Apple, and you have an Android user, a PC user? You ever see how they start to butt heads, right? Oh man, you still on that Android? Listen, I'll raise my hand. I've been guilty, because at first I was an Android user. I finally, after my pastor had given me a old version of his cell phone, which was a iPhone, I finally crossed over, and I've never gone back. I just enjoy it more. I enjoy it more. But I'm not, quote, against Androids. But I have found myself poking and kind of teasing people who use Androids, right? And so even though it can be fun and kind of humorous, it's still competition. It's still that side versus that side. Again, now I know you're like, oh man, that's no big deal. Okay, let me give you another one. It's around that time, right? It's getting close to the election season. Yeah. Let's go there. Red states, blue states. Republican, Democrat. Now that's about as far as I'm gonna go with that, because I don't want you to cancel me, right? I don't want you to cut me off because I ain't on your side, right? But hey, that's an example. Because when the election happens, what do? Every news channel brings up the American map. And as the results start coming in, it's red and it's blue states, and it's blue states and it's red states. Let me give you another one. Now, again, I'm just giving examples just to kind of illustrate and paint a picture for you. 20 something years ago, my wife and I, we moved out here to Southern California from Ohio. We had gangs in Ohio. We had, this or that on this side and that side. And a lot of the big time gangs from New York and LA, Chicago, they, migrated and, set up camp in Ohio. But I mean, when we moved here, truly like the origins of the Bloods and the Crips, right? Red for the Bloods, blue for the Crips. You on that side, you're on that side, opposing sides. I could go on all day with just giving you more and more examples of this versus that, the dualistic mind, the dualistic approach to life and to living. And one thing that I have learned, because I've read this book and I have implemented it and I have taken on a contemplative lifestyle. So I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from practice. I was very dualistic. I was very argumentative. I think that's how you say it, right? I loved to argue. I loved to pick sides and prove my point. I loved, taking up for one side and, downing another side. That was my background. And even after coming to the Lord, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, right? If you're watching right now, I got on a cowboy hat, right? And hey, it's like my team versus your team, right? That's another big example that I didn't even bring up. In sports, right? We pick sides. We become opponents, and it can get heated sometimes, and we can cross the line sometimes. So why am I bringing all of this up, and how does it relate to your freedom to think and your freedom to, think for yourself? And how does this all tie into you being more regulated, that you might be more elevated? Well, if you feel in your soul, in your heart, a certain way about a certain thing, But because you have not been made aware of the matrix, which is AKA this dualistic society, this dualistic culture, if you're not aware of that, you can be very troubled in your heart. You can feel a lot of conflict. You can be torn because society is saying, choose, pick a side, get on a side. When it's time to vote, I don't know about you, but has anyone ever asked you, hey, who you voting for? It can be a casual question, but if you feel that pressure rise up in your chest, who I'm voting for, and you have to kind of be careful, because if you say the wrong name according to them, then they got a problem with you, or they got a comment, or they got a look on their face. You voting for them? Oh man, they that blah 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 blah. Like they gonna give you a piece of their mind because you didn't pick the side that they were on. This happens in our workspace. If there's a vote, and I'm just taking casual things, but just making an illustration of them. You know, sometimes we have our little quarterly lunches, and there may be, you know, we have to vote for a restaurant, right? Okay, so there's 10 people on your team. They're saying Chinese or Mexican, right? And 6 people raise their hand, or, you know, whatever, for like Chinese, let's just say. But you really want Mexican. You know, and it's like, well, the majority rules, and the majority wants to pressure you. Like, oh man, why do you want that? You should want this. Ah, yada, yada, yada. Like, again, I'm just throwing things out there, but guys, you, as I always encourage you, you name it, you frame it, you put it into your context. What I'm doing is giving you some flavor, giving you some examples to help draw and bring to mind how it relates to you personally, because the examples that I'm giving you, maybe none of them actually relate directly to you, but they're starting to spark the imagination, and you're starting to think right now, like, yeah, I have felt the pressure of having to pick a side, choose a side. You know, especially like if you grew up in a home where maybe the parents split and there was a custody battle. And it's like, oh, I gotta go with my mom, or oh, I gotta go with my dad. And then the parents want to, like, you know, tell you how bad the other one is. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like that. Oh, your mom is a blah 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 blah. Or when you're with your dad, or when you're with your mom, oh, you know, your dad is no good. You know, he ain't taking care of business. You know, but whatever it is, it's like you're in the middle, and society is always telling you, pick a side, pick a side, pick a side. That's my point. And when you're always under the pressure to pick a side at like every turn, that can create conflict. That can create a void of peace. And it can rob you of your regulation. It can rob you of that because you're in this system that isn't really supporting your soul space, and you haven't learned the language to identify what the problem is. You're feeling it, but you don't know how to name it, right? That's one of the first things that you learned in emotional intelligence, learning to name, to identify the emotion that you're feeling. Once you're able to name it, then you're able to change it. Once you learn how to name it, then you're able to address it or to unpack it, right? And so you may be going through this dualistic conflict, living in this world where you want to think for yourself. You want to be free to have your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own ideas. But wherever you are, whether it's on your job, in your church, that's a big one. That's a huge one, right? You go to a church and you have this relationship with God, and God is downloading some things to you, or God's speaking some things, or you're reading some things in his word, and you feel very naturally, right, convicted toward a certain thing or a certain belief about God. You have a certain dynamic to your relationship with God. But then when you go on Sunday morning, what's being taught, what's being preached, what's being pushed from the pulpit or small groups or from certain ministries or just other members, what's being pushed is in conflict with what you know to be true for you. And now you're wrestling. And not all wrestling is negative or bad. I'm just saying that it again, this is all about regulation. I'm all about helping you to regulate. And so step one is learning and becoming aware that your voice has value. That inner voice, that voice matters. That voice matters. That's your voice. And for some of us, that inner voice has never emerged. It's never been given permission to be heard and to speak. It's been suppressed and depressed by a dualistic society that says that voice doesn't matter. Only the voices that you hear so loudly coming across media outlets and social media and, the various circles that you're in is like society says, no. What you think, what you feel doesn't matter. Get on board with us. Pick one of these sides. Choose one of these sides. And as soon as you do, whatever side you do pick, you've just created some enemies, because as soon as you pick that side, you are directly opposed to that side. That's how it works. And you just trying to live your life. And now you're caught up on every turn you make. You're the enemy of someone else. You feeling some type of way about someone else, and someone else is feeling some type of way about you. And it's divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. Dualism is divide and conquer. Let's get us butting heads. Let's get us opposing each other's ideas and thoughts. Let us get this. Let us start devaluing one another's thoughts and ideas for the sake of elevating our thoughts and ideas, customs, religions, traditions. That's how deep this little rabbit hole goes, man. So if you are feeling that pressure to pick a side right now in your life, to choose a side, I want you to know that you don't have to pick a side. You can pick your side. You can pick you. And through a contemplative practice, just like it said in the book, you can refuse to identify with any one side. That's possible for you, right? That's why this is the place where possibilities become your perspective. That's possible. It's possible for you to break free of the matrix. It's possible for you. You can begin to see the possibility that peace and calm and resolution and regulation internally for you is possible. Yes. Now, again, I encourage you to search your soul and identify where dualism has invaded your life, where you have felt pressured by other people to choose a side and pick a side, and it doesn't resonate anymore. It doesn't align. It doesn't serve. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasing. It's causing you trauma and drama. It's causing you conflict and confusion. You lack confidence and clarity because you are always trying to pick a side. And while you are so busy and caught up in trying to pick a side, you are losing more and more of you. That's what it does. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. Man, you. Stop it. Stop this. Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Man, I'm me. That's what I is. I'm me. And if I choose to vote on any level, like, because, it ain't just the president. It's like all these other candidates for all these other positions. I might vote 3 or 4 people on the Republican side. I might vote 3 or 4 people on the Democrat side. You ain't about to dictate to me. You ain't about to tell me, because I've dedicated my life to a side, to a party that half the time ain't really serving my best interest anyway. If we won't keep it a buck, you ain't, what have you done for me lately? While I'm so committed and dedicated to serving you and supporting you, right? And you pocketing funds and, your bank account on 10 and mine still on 1. right? Like, don't get me on that soapbox, right? So it's like this idea, man, where we are just troubled because we're always trying to fit in to this side or that side when God is calling you to his side, the side of love, the side of peace, the side of joy, the side of contentment, satisfaction, the side of meaning and purpose, a non-dualistic side, a side that loves and embraces all, a side that cares about all, that sees value in all. But not so with our society. Not so with humanity. Nope. Pick a side. So I hope and pray that this has enlightened you, given you something to consider, to think about, something to ponder, that has brought some awareness for you, right, in this area. So the two things that I covered, and then I want to leave you with a CTA. So again, let me kind of recap the things that I covered today. Was number one, being aware of the dualistic society in which we live in. Dualism, summarized, pick a side. And whoever you pick, you are automatically positioned to oppose the other side. All right? Time out for that crap. The other thing that I brought you into an awareness of, if you didn't already know it, this thing called contemplative prayer lifestyle, contemplative prayer lifestyle, or to contemplate. All of it, when it's like summarized, it's this ability to be able to pull away from the noise and the clutter, to pull away from the chatter, to pull away from all of these conflicting voices, and to still yourself, sitting quietly, peacefully in a space of solitude. Now, that's not to say that you can't do this in a crowded room. I'm just giving you best case. I'm giving you how you might want to start off. A place of solitude, a place of solitude, silence, and stillness. I was thinking about my 3 S's whenever I teach that. Silence, solitude, and stillness. This was demonstrated through Mark chapter 1, verse 35. Jesus gets up while it was very early in the morning, left the house, and went to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone was looking for you." And Jesus said, "Let us go from here to the nearby towns and villages, that I may preach there also, for this is why I've come." Jesus lived a contemplative life. He knew how to get up before the sun, before the people, before the noise, before the demand. And he knew how to get away. I want to encourage you to do the same. If you don't have peace, if you're not regulated in your soul, remembering that that's the foundation for the elevation of your success. You're not going to be able to build very high if your foundation isn't firm. You're going to be unstable and rocky and shaky, and the building is going to collapse. So let's save yourself that pain and that experience by building a firm foundation through contemplation. Okay? Here's my CTA, and then I'm going to get up out of here. This week, take pen and pad, as we always do. Good old pen and pad. Let's put the cell phones down for a minute. Go to the 99-cent store or Dollar Tree or Target, wherever your cheapest things is. Come on, get the cheap. Come on. Ain't going to cost you much. I'm not trying to get in your pockets. Buy you a notebook, a spiral notebook, and a pen. Cost you maybe at max $5. And I want you to carve out some time for yourself. Yeah, carve out some time. Let's make you and let's make your voice a priority. Because you were created for a purpose, and this world needs you, and you need you. All right. So let's carve some time out. Let's put pen to pad, and let's start to think. I want you to list out 3 places where you feel the pressure of dualism, where you feel, where you witness, where you are exposed to dualistic thinking, dualistic pressure, the dualistic demand, right? I want you to list out 3 places where you experience that the most. And then I want you to begin to ask yourself, am I free to be me in these spaces? You're feeling the pressure. You're experiencing the pressure. They're trying to make you choose. And I want you to ask yourself, am I free to be me in these spaces, right? In these places with these faces, right? Right. Because it's always tied to another person, right? But just wanted to rhyme a little bit, right? So ask yourself that question and then wait for the answer. And then I want you to begin to ask yourself the next question of, if I was free, what would I think? What would I do? What would I choose? By asking yourself the question, you give your mind something to work with. The mind is fashioned in such a way that it wants to support and it wants to provide answers to your questions, and it wants to support your most dominant belief. But you got to first start with the questions. You got to first start with, what are you thinking? What are you, right? What's the thoughts? What's your opinion? What does your inner voice say? And then the mind can begin to support that. So question number 1, where am I feeling the pressure? Number 2, am I currently free to be me in this space, in this place, with this face? And then number 3, if I had it my way, if there was no pressure, then what would I think? What would I say? How would I view this? How would I move in this space? And then number 4, I want you to write down one way that you can begin to move the way you want to move, think the way you want to think. Just one way with this awareness, right? For example, if it was the political climate, maybe at your job, right? And I know we ain't supposed to be talking politics on the job, but let's say that you do have some coffee break room conversations about politics. And maybe that's one of your things that you wrote down, right? Maybe that's one of your 3, and you feel pressure because they're always talking about who you voting for. Let's just say, for example, and then you say to yourself, nope, I don't feel free. I feel under pressure and I'm scared to, tell them. I've been telling them that I'm just undecided. I'm still weighing my options. I'm still thinking about it. But the truth is, you know who you want to vote for, or you've decided not to vote. So like, you've come to a decision, but you're scared to tell them that you've come to that decision because you're afraid of the repercussions, because that's what dualistic, thinking and the dualistic demand does. It puts you under pressure, and then it punishes you, right, based upon what you choose, because it doesn't want you to be free to be, yourself. You have to fit into the box. You have to pick a side, right? You have to conform. Can't be free, conform. So anyway, you know that you feel that way, right? And now you're saying to yourself, okay, if I had it my way, what would I do when I walked into that coffee break room? Like, if I was totally free, no fear, imagine, envision, who would I be, right? And then, now, obviously, because we live in this matrix, there are consequences to anything, whether it's positive or negative. Whatever you choose and whatever you decide, there are going to be consequences. People may say things, people may come at you, but this isn't about avoiding conflict. The goal of this exercise and the goal of what I just shared is not about avoiding conflict. It's about being okay with the conflict because you're after something more valuable. This is about your freedom to think for yourself, the freedom to allow your voice to be valued, beginning with you. So there may be conflict. There may be a price to pay. There may be some things there may be a rippling effect. Now, you do have to use wisdom to know, to what degree that you step into this. Because if it's about your welfare, if it's about your dollars, if it's about your job, I'm not telling nobody to be so bold and courageous that you go in there and tell your boss off. Please don't hear that. Please don't hear nothing that's going to derail your life. I think you're smart enough to already know that. I'm just saying, don't take it, there is some wisdom to this on how you step into it. Okay. Like, you got bills to pay, you got mouths to feed, right? Like, I'm not telling you to go radical, but what I am encouraging you to do is to consider baby steps, simple, easy ways that you can begin to step into that. And maybe using the example that I just gave you, maybe the way that you might do that is the next time you walk into that coffee break room, I just made that up, coffee break room. I don't even know that's how you say it, but into that break room, then maybe you allowing your voice to be valued, and you stepping into this newness, and you stepping into being you, and you breaking free of the dualism, right? Maybe it's simply you saying, I'm going to keep that decision to myself. Because maybe you've never done that. Maybe you've just been trying to push them off and push them off and push them off. Avoid them. Oh, you see them in there talking about it, I'm going to go the other way. You've been avoiding, or you've been suppressing, and you've been trying to maneuver your way around it instead of stepping into your voice, right? Being free to think for yourself, because our thoughts are going to ultimately lead to some sort of behavior and action. So now that you're free to think for yourself, maybe you're saying to yourself, you know what, the next time they ask me, I'm going to just respond in a way that is very dignified, respectful, but very empowering for me. I'm going to tell them that's my decision, and I choose to keep that information to myself. Don't ask me again. You didn't lie. You didn't suppress. You didn't conform. You didn't avoid. Nope. You stood up for yourself, and you allowed you to be, and you were regulated within. And however they respond to that, ain't no policies against honesty. Like, ain't no policies against you saying, I choose not to share with you that information, because you don't have to, right? And you accomplish practicing being you. You practiced allowing your voice to be valued. You practice breaking the chains and the shackles of dualism. You practice stepping into yourself. And the more you do that, the more radical you may become. But the more you do anything, the better you become at it, and the more it becomes home for you. And I hope and pray that this place and space of regulation in your soul lays that foundation so that you might experience that elevation in the success that you are, and the success that you are to experience in this world. I hope and pray that this has all made sense. I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. I believe in you guys. Travell C.W. Lynch, Mr. What? Here to share strategies that are going to help you to regulate your soul and elevate your success. Until next time, you guys be encouraged.